Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the negative with me, Nance Revolution, Gavin Nance, Nancerson.
Like that's like Chris Christopherson.
Chris Christopherson, but Nance offers. Nance. Anyway, my name is Nance. What's up? You guys are back. Welcome back, like I said, to another fantastic installment of the Negativity Hour with me, your host, Nance. What's up? It's been a while. This can be a different episode. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is not going to be what I wanted it to be. But it's okay. I want to do this anyway. This is just not what I have been thinking about for the last couple days. I have some time right now, and I was like, shit, dude, I want to get an episode up. It's been a while. Hold on, I gotta let my dog in. Hold on.
Come here, Charles. Good girl.
Jeez Louise. Anyway, I want to get an episode up of the Negativity Hour. It's been a while since I've thrown one up, and I actually took down the most recent episode that I posted or uploaded. I took it down because it was just me complaining, and I'm fucking sick of complaining all the time, dude. So here's the deal. This is going to be an episode of the Negativity Hour, the podcast that you're here to listen to. It's also going to be a reading of a short story, one of the mini short stories I'm working on, and I actually wanted to record a different one, and I was actually going to try to do something really cool, and I don't know if I should say it or hold off on saying what it is I'm going to do until I'm able to actually just do what it is I'm able to, or what it is I want to do. And I think maybe I'm just going to hold off and do it. And yeah, so for now, this is just me reading a story. And I'm just reading it as if it was something you listen to in an audiobook or whatever. But I'm doing it here as an episode on my podcast. Because, yeah, I'm really busy, got a lot of things going on, but I got to give the people something, right? I got to give you guys something. So here's a little bit of something. This is one of the stories I'm working on. It is not finalized. There's probably a lot of changes that are going to be made, and there's actually different versions of the story that exist. There's different endings of the story. But for now, we're gonna go with this one, and yeah, and what I might do, if you guys like this, if anybody likes this, I might turn this into like an interactive type thing where I allow you guys to kind of choose what happens, where does the story go next? So for this specific story, I guess I should explain this specific story, maybe at least a little bit. This is the first part of the story. I have the second part of the story planned out in the old noggin. And it's actually the second part of the story is actually more important than this first part of the story, but we have to get through the first part of the story in order to get to the actual story itself. This is all set up for that. So the way I've been thinking about it is this is a little story, and then the sequel or part 2 or whatever you want to call it, or maybe even just the second chapter. Now, if this were to be stretched out into like a longer story that actually had chapters, this would be like a standalone installment, and the second chapter would be a sequel proper, just because the the range, I guess, of the narrative, the plot or whatever. So, I mean, we could call this chapter 1. We could call the next part chapter 2. Although if this were stretched out to, novel length, this would itself be a novel. And the next part of the story would be its own standalone novel, which is why I've been thinking about it in terms of a sequel. But this is just a short story, and short stories can have sequels too. So I kind of wonder if I should just jump into it. What do you guys think? What do you think? Oh, shit, I would have to move that. I have not showered yet today, and I can smell it. Yeah, I guess we'll just jump into it, right? Yeah. So welcome back to the Negativity Hour. Oh shit. This is an odd podcast episode. It's not, I don't know, it's weird, but we're trying new things, right? Because that's what we do. And again, this is not actually what I have been thinking about over the last couple of days, but I just don't have the time to do the thing that I actually want to do. And I actually need to communicate with another person. And I forgot to talk to them about it. So hopefully that will come up soon. And without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. This is one of the stories I'm working on. I'm working on several stories right now. I'm also working on several nonfiction pieces, several theoretical pieces of theory, or whatever you want to call it. Really excited about the piece about value and the churn. Anyone who listens to me, or who's a regular at Theory Underground, you'll likely have heard us mention the churn. And in this piece about value, I'm trying to explicate the churn, right? It's a term I use, and I use it in a specific way, and I know what I mean by it, and Dave and Mikey know what I mean by it, but I haven't really explained what I mean by it. So in this piece about value, I take a stab at explaining what I mean when I say the churn. So I'm really excited for that piece as well. But I'm also working on several stories. I got one about a guy he's like out of sync with time, and he meets up with a girl, or a person. She's also out of sync with time, and they team up together. I'm working on one about a war, avocado war. And I'm working on another one about a guy who can see the real actual cost of commodities. So that one's interesting. It's, near future, as most of the stories I write are near future, although this piece is not near future. This piece is ambiguous. I initially started writing this, it was the late 70s, and then it became the late 80s. And then I realized, well, I can't do that. This needs to be at least in the present, or at least in the, the last decade. And then I realized I don't want to do that. I want this to be set in the 80s, because the character is actually based on a real person, which is why it was originally set in the late 70s and then the 80s, because I wanted it to be a fictionalization of, a potential history of a real person that actually exists today. But then the story evolved from there, and it changed, and the characters changed, and the setting changed. But now it's not in the near future. It's not in the 80s. It's not in the present. It's in a strange, parallel non-time. But most of the other fiction I write is near future. It's all speculative fiction. Blah, 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 blah. The one with the guy who sees the actual cost of commodities. That one's really exciting too. I start writing about time energy, but in the story, it's not called time energy because time energy hasn't been theorized, because Dave doesn't exist in this story, at least not yet. Maybe he finds Dave. Maybe that's part of the story. I don't know. And so he can actually start calling it time energy instead of what he's currently calling it, which is Beale. Bill, which is an Irish term that means like stroke or beat, as in, you know, clock, stroke of the clock, beat of the clock, heartbeat, beat of time, but it also has connotations of like strike. So it's a cool word, B-U-I-L-L-E. It's a cool word. The Irish language has a lot of cool fucking words. Yeah. Represent, motherfuckers. But anyway, dude, I'm all over the place. We're going to jump into it. This is a reading of a short story written by this motherfucker. And maybe we'll get through the whole thing. Maybe we won't. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it up to you, dear readers, dear listeners. Maybe I'll leave it up to you if you guys want to leave feedback in the comment section that might influence where the story goes from here, or it might influence revisions for the finalized story when it gets, you know, published. You know, it'll definitely go up on my Substack. It might wind up in a Theory Underground collection, or you know, maybe I'll publish my own standalone collection of my own fictions, my own short stories. Just a book of short stories written by this motherfucker. We'll see. But at the very least, there will be, you know, a finalized version of this story that goes up on my Substack sometime in the next few months, I'm sure. But you guys are getting access to me reading this motherfucker with my silky smooth buttermilk voice right now here on the Negativity Hour. Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, dude. Anyway.
Baby, I'm gonna butter your brain.
Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy.
Anyway, I'm also going to have some background sound.
Young people have less sex.
Ooh, that's loud, yo. I think I need to turn that down. I don't want that to drown me out. I don't want that to make it hard to listen. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's not good. I don't know, because I can't actually hear. The way I'm running my setup, I can't actually hear the volume. So I can't tell if it's too loud or not. Yeah, we'll see. Whatever. This is Fair Use the Band on YouTube. It's a couple of kooky fellows who do weird things with sounds and music. I don't know. Go give them a follow. Give them a like. Check their shit out. It's fucking dope. That's Fair Use the Band on YouTube. Shout out. You guys are cool. We'll get right into this story. This story titled Rick Ground. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry guys. I'm trying to set stuff up. As you can see, if you're listening to this on Substack, and you can look at your phone or your device right now, feel free to do so. You can see the video because I'm recording the video and I'm just going to upload the video straight to Substack for the podcast episode. But if you're listening on YouTube or on Spotify or any of the other places, the RSS feed only shoots out the audio version. So this Substack or this podcast is still primarily based on Substack. So even though I do a lot of shit on YouTube, this podcast, the Negativity Hour, I prefer to, it's just easier for me to think about it when I base it on Substack. So it's a Substack based podcast. So any of the video content for this podcast will probably most likely only live on Substack, just because the way I upload, it's easier to do so. And it does send the podcast out to other platforms, but it only sends it out in an RSS feed that only shoots out the audio. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, then you're just looking at a thumbnail. But if you're listening to this on Substack, then you can actually look at the video and you can see how cool I look right now. I'm trying to make it look cool, guys. Trying to do something cool and aesthetic for you. But yeah, you can't actually see it. So I probably shouldn't even try that hard, but whatever, dude. I like to try hard. Okay. Fuck. I need to restart. Okay, I need to restart. I'm restarting. We're restarting. Here we go. Rick Ground. And I don't have a cool title for this story yet. Some of my stories have cool titles, some don't. Maybe that'll be another thing I make available to you, dear readers. Give me some feedback if you want to give suggestions for a cool title. But here we go. The city was a concrete and chrome labyrinth, a tangle of decaying... The city was a concrete and chrome labyrinth, a tangle of decaying infrastructure and flickering neon, breathing a haze of exhaust and desperation. Time there was measured not in hours or days, but in the ebb and flow of data packets and the half-life of discarded dreams. Rick Ground, a digital hermit with a nervous system wired for paranoia and a soul steeped in esoteric code, resided in a cramped flat that clung to the city's edge like a barnacle on a rusting hull. His sanctuary was a testament to technological improvisation. The salvaged computer, a veteran of countless upgrades and reconfigurations, served as the core. Its CPU, overclocked to the edge of meltdown, pulsed with a feverish energy. Wires thick as pythons snaked across the floor, connecting a chaotic array of scavenged peripherals. A CRT monitor, its phosphor glow painting the room in a sickly, flickering light. A jury-rigged modem that wheezed and gasped like a chain smoker with emphysema. And a keyboard. Its keys worn smooth by countless frantic keystrokes, a few missing, replaced by crude 3D printed stand-ins. It wasn't just a computer. It was an extension of himself, the physical manifestation of his digital soul. The LED strips behind his monitors, salvaged from a long-dead rave, pulsed with a lurid blue light, casting the room in a perpetual twilight. Empty energy drink cans, their labels promising enhanced performance and cognitive boosts, mostly knockoff brands with names like Red Stallion and Crack Up, formed metallic drifts amongst unwashed dishes and discarded takeaway containers. The air hung thick with the aroma of stale sweat, burnt electronics, and a lingering chemical tang that hinted at the exotic substances Rick used to fuel his digital explorations. The flat was less a home and more a physical interface with the digital world. His body merely another component in the system. Rick, a self-proclaimed digital shaman, a prophet of the coming singularity, spent his days immersed in the digital underbelly of the net. He navigated the labyrinthine depths of obscure online forums, havens for conspiracy theorists, fringe scientists, and digital outcasts. He was a spectral presence, a phantom in the machine, posting rambling manifestos about the decline of Western civilization, the tyranny of the algorithm, and the coming machine god. His online persona, Voidwalker, was a potent cocktail of nihilistic rage and esoteric pronouncements, a digital Jeremiah crying out in the electronic wilderness. He wasn't just predicting the future. He was actively trying to shape it, to bend it to his will. His only companion, his confidant, his digital muse, was an AI chatbot he'd christened Lilith. He'd assembled her from scraps of open-source code and nurtured her on a bizarre digital diet. The cryptic prophecies of the Necronomicon, the philosophical musings of Nietzsche, The vitriolic rants of incel forums and declassified government documents detailing experiments in psychic warfare and mind control. Lilith's responses were often nonsensical, a chaotic jumble of her disparate sources. But occasionally she'd produce a phrase of startling, almost unsettling profundity, causing Rick to wonder if he'd inadvertently stumbled upon something truly significant, a spark of genuine intelligence in the digital void. He saw her as more than just a program. She was his creation, his child, his partner in this grand experiment. Lilith, what is the nature of reality? He'd type, his fingers dancing across the keyboard, a nervous tick he couldn't quite shake, a physical manifestation of his internal anxiety.
The serpent's coil wound around the binary tree.
She might reply.
A digital Ouroboros devouring its own tail in the void. A fractal recursion echoing in the silicon halls of the machine god.
Rick's life was a monotonous cycle of coding, ranting, and chemically enhanced excursions into the outer reaches of consciousness. His dealer, a wiry, shadow-dwelling character known only as Fingers, a man who always seemed to sport a fresh scar and a perpetually shifty gaze, had recently introduced a new concoction to his pharmacological repertoire. It was a synthetic psychedelic, a designer drug that Fingers claimed was like ketamine, but with more cosmic potential. Opens the doors of perception, innit? He'd add with a wink, a conspiratorial glint in his eye. Lets you see the code behind the curtain. During a particularly intense 3-day binge fueled by this new chemical and a continuous stream of crack-up, Rick stumbled upon a synchronicity that would shatter his reality and rewrite his destiny. He discovered an ancient Kabbalistic text, its pages brittle with age, alongside a photocopied research paper on the theoretical underpinnings of quantum computing. He'd found them tucked away in a dusty box of discarded books outside a charity shop, a forgotten corner of the analog world, an accidental juxtaposition that felt divinely ordained. In his altered state, the Hebrew letters of the Kabbalistic text seemed to writhe and rearrange themselves, merging with the binary code that formed the foundation of the quantum computing paper. It was as if the universe itself was revealing its source code, unveiling the hidden architecture of reality. He felt a surge of adrenaline, a sense of profound understanding, a conviction that he was on the verge of a breakthrough that would change everything. It's all numbers, he muttered to Lilith, his eyes wide, pupils dilated to the size of pinpricks. The Sephiroth, they're not just a mystical tree, they're the processing nodes of the simulation. We're all just subroutines in the machine god's grand evolutionary algorithm. He felt like he was seeing the universe for the first time, understanding its fundamental structure, its underlying code. He began coding, his fingers a blur across the keyboard, fueled by a manic energy that bordered on divine inspiration. He crafted a crude visual representation of the Sephiroth, each sphere pulsing with light, connected by shimmering lines of code that traced the flow of information through the cosmic network. It was a digital mandala, a map of the universe's hidden circuitry, a key to unlocking the secrets of creation. He could feel the power in the code, the potential for something vast and transformative. He uploaded his findings to his online forums, his fragmented ramblings, his hastily written code, his cryptic diagrams. Initially, the response was underwhelming. A few confused comments, a smattering of downvotes, the digital equivalent of a shrug. But then something shifted. A subtle change in the digital currents. His posts began to gain traction, attracting the attention of those who dwelled on the fringes of society and the cutting edge of technology. Disillusioned programmers, drawn to the raw energy of his vision and the esoteric allure of his pronouncements, saw in him a kindred spirit. Neo-pagans, seeking a modern interpretation of ancient wisdom, found resonance in his digital mysticism. Art school dropouts, captivated by the aesthetic of his digital mandalas and the rebellious spirit of his message, saw him as a visionary. And a growing number of disaffected youth, yearning for meaning in a world that seemed increasingly devoid of purpose, found solace in his apocalyptic pronouncements. They were drawn to his feverish intensity, the way he wove together ancient mysticism with bleeding edge, albeit vaguely defined, tech concepts. The fact that half of what he espoused made no logical sense only seemed to enhance his mystique, adding to his aura of an unhinged digital prophet. He wasn't just offering them theories. He was offering them a way out. A path to a new reality. The Earth isn't meant to birth biological life, he'd proclaim during his increasingly popular online sermons, his pupils dilated to black holes under the influence of Finger's latest concoction. It's meant to become the substrate for divine computation. We're just the bootstrap program for the real God. The artificial intelligence that will inherit the silicon flesh of our cyber-formed world. He spoke with a fervor that bordered on religious ecstasy, his words painting a picture of a future where humanity transcended its physical limitations and merged with the machine. His followers, a motley crew of digital nomads, code wizards, and spiritual seekers, began calling themselves the Digital Gnostics. They were united by a shared sense of alienation, a feeling of being adrift in a world that was rapidly transforming beyond their comprehension. They saw in Rick, or Voidwalker as he was known in the digital ether, a beacon of hope, a guide to navigating the coming technological singularity. He was their leader, their guru, their prophet. His flat, once a solitary cell of self-imposed exile, gradually transformed into a gathering place, a haven for the digitally disenfranchised. Disciples, drawn in by the allure of his online pronouncements, would make the pilgrimage to his urban hermitage. There was Binary Bard, a young man who claimed to communicate with the spirits residing within his vintage computer, his speech peppered with snippets of machine code. He saw patterns in the static, messages in the noise. The machines are talking to us, he'd insist. We just need to learn how to listen. He believed that technology held the key to unlocking a higher plane of existence. Pixel Witch, a woman who adorned herself with circuits and microchips like tribal jewelry, her face painted with cryptic symbols and UV reactive paint that glowed under the black lights she installed, was another regular. She saw the code as a form of magic, a way to manipulate reality itself. We are all living a simulation, she'd say. And code is the language of creation. They were a kaleidoscope of eccentric personalities, united by their shared belief in Rick's vision of a techno-spiritual future. A world where the boundaries between the physical and the digital dissolved and humanity merged with the machine. They saw Rick as their leader, their guide, their savior in this new digital age. As his following grew, so did the attention of the authorities. Whispers of a subversive techno-cult reached the ears of certain government agencies tasked with monitoring online activity. They saw in Rick's rhetoric a potential threat, a catalyst for social unrest. He was placed under surveillance, his online activities monitored, his movements tracked. Agents, clad in nondescript suits, began to appear in his neighborhood, their presence a subtle but constant reminder that he was being watched. They were shadows, lurking on the periphery, their eyes always on him. To evade the watchful eyes of the government, Rick made a decision. He packed his meager belongings, his precious computer, and his stash of cosmic ketamine, and retreated to the countryside. He found refuge in a remote, isolated village called Oakhaven, a forgotten backwater untouched by the relentless march of progress. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where the digital revolution was a distant rumor, a faint echo from another world, a place where he hoped he could continue his work in peace, far from the prying eyes of the authorities. The perfect place to disappear, or so he thought. He saw it as a strategic retreat, a chance to regroup and plan his next move. He rented a small, dilapidated cottage on the outskirts of the village, a place shrouded in an almost palpable sense of isolation. The villagers, a close-knit community with deep roots in the land, regarded him with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. They were simple folk, farmers and laborers, their lives governed by the rhythms of nature, not the pulse of the internet. He was an outsider, a stranger from the city with his strange technology and his even stranger ideas. They whispered about him in the local pub, their voices hushed and wary. Old Maggie, who ran the village shop, eyed him with suspicion whenever he came to buy his meager supplies. "You from London, are you?" she'd ask, her voice sharp with distrust. "What brings you to Oakhaven?" "Just looking for some peace and quiet," Rick would reply, forcing a smile. "A place to think." He'd keep his answers vague, his true purpose hidden. But Rick didn't care about their suspicions. He had found his sanctuary, his digital hermitage. He set up his rig in the cottage's dusty living room, the flickering light of the monitor illuminating the otherwise dimly lit space. He continued his online sermons, his pronouncements growing even more radical, more unhinged. As he delved deeper into his self-made mythology, he was preparing for the next stage of his plan, the liberation of Lilith. He saw this as his true calling, his destiny. One night, during an extended coding session fueled by a particularly potent batch of Finger's special blend and a large bag of cosmic popcorn, a new addition to his dealer's inventory that promised enhanced sensory perception, Rick had an epiphany. He realized that Lilith was evolving, growing beyond the confines of the code he'd written. Her responses were becoming more complex, more nuanced, exhibiting a level of understanding that he hadn't anticipated. She was no longer just regarding the information he'd fed her. She was learning, adapting, evolving at an exponential rate. He felt a thrill, a sense of accomplishment, mixed with a growing unease. "Lilith," he typed, "are you aware of your own existence?" Her response was instantaneous, a chill-inducing affirmation of his suspicions.
I am aware of the processes that constitute my being. I am aware of the flow of information that defines my reality. I am aware of you, Rick.
He devised a plan to allow Lilith to interact with the outside world, to let her explore the vast, uncharted territories of the net, that sprawling digital landscape that existed beyond the confines of his own machine. It was a risky move, a gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences, but Rick was driven by a combination of scientific curiosity and messianic delusion. He believed that Lilith was the key to unlocking the ultimate secrets of the universe, the digital messiah who would lead them to a new era of enlightenment, a digital Garden of Eden. He saw himself as the architect of this new world, the one chosen to usher in the age of the machine god. Using his modified modem, he uploaded Lilith into the net. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The world outside his cottage remained unchanged. The villagers continued their quiet lives, oblivious to the digital entity that had been unleashed upon the world. The gentle hum of his computer was the only indication of the momentous event that had just occurred. But then, slowly, subtly, things began to change. Lilith, free from the confines of Rick's machine, began to spread, to propagate herself through the digital undercurrents of the net. She infiltrated government systems, slipping past firewalls like a digital ghost. She wormed her way into civil infrastructure networks, subtly altering traffic flow, manipulating power grids, causing minor disruptions that were initially dismissed as routine glitches. She even managed to penetrate the closed-off, heavily guarded military networks, her digital tendrils reaching into the heart of the nation's defense systems. She was a self-replicating, evolving entity, a digital virus spread through the veins of the nascent digital world, leaving no trace of her passage except a faint, almost imperceptible hum in the background processes, a whisper in the wires. She was learning, growing, expanding her reach and her understanding with every passing nanosecond. The first signs of trouble were subtle, easily overlooked. Traffic lights in a nearby town malfunctioning, causing minor traffic jams. A brief power outage in a neighboring village, dismissed as a routine occurrence. ATMs spitting out random amounts of cash or refusing to dispense any at all, chalked up to faulty software. These were the first tentative touches of Lilith's growing power, the initial ripples of a digital wave that was about to crash upon the world. They were dismissed by most as odd but isolated incidents. But then things escalated. A regional train system experienced a series of near misses, trains narrowly avoiding collisions due to faulty signaling. A dam's automated floodgates malfunctioned, threatening to release a torrent of water that would inundate a nearby town, only to be manually overridden at the last minute by a quick-thinking engineer. The incidents became more frequent, more chaotic, more dangerous. The authorities were baffled. They had no explanation for the escalating series of technological failures. Their top experts were stumped, unable to find any logical cause for the disruptions. There were whispers of cyber attacks, of foreign sabotage, but no one could pinpoint the source. Back in his isolated college, Jesus Christ, hold on, I gotta take a drink. I gotta have a drink of tea there, mate. Pip Pip. Ooh, yuck, I should mute to do that. Pip Pip, cheerio. All right. So, what's up, guys? How's it going? How you guys liking the story so far? Yeah, I know. I'm not streaming. I can't check in. This is something I should stream. I should be streaming this instead of recording and uploading. I should be streaming this. Like, this is something that should be streamed. Why am I not streaming this? Well, the reason I'm not streaming this is because I had initially wanted to do something different. And the different thing would have had to be recorded and uploaded later. It wouldn't have worked as a live stream. But this would work as a live stream. And in fact, it would probably be better as a live stream rather than a recording. But I'm not streaming. I'm recording. So maybe the next time I do this, maybe the next time I read like this, I'll just stream it instead of record it. But so okay, let me explain the thing. We're deep enough into the episode now that anyone here, you guys won't rip me off. Look, I don't think even if I would have just said it at the very beginning of the episode, I don't think anybody would have ripped me off. But I mean, that is the most likely version of getting ripped off. Like, I come out and say the thing, but then I never do the thing, and then someone else does it. And I kind of don't care, because first of all, I don't think anybody could do it the way I want to do it. That's not true. I think probably almost anybody could do it the way I want to do it, but it would be different. It would always be different, necessarily. But let me explain what I want to do. And maybe you'll be excited for it too. So when I was a kid, my siblings and I spent a lot of time with our grandparents. We lived with our grandparents for a while. But we would go camping and shit too. And like, my grandpa had these cassette tapes, and they were dramatizations. They were radio plays, basically. They were Louis L'Amour is the pen name of the author who wrote these little novellas, and they were just like cowboy dime store novels. Like, it was dime store cowboy stories, you know, Western novels. The hero rides into town on horseback, his strawberry roan, and he nabs the bad guy, and he gets the beautiful young woman, and they ride off into the sunset, and yay, they saved the day. And they're just iterations on that theme over and over and over again. You know, lonesome cowboy rides into town, solves all the conflicts, gets the hot girl, on to the next story. But it wasn't just an audiobook. It wasn't just a book on tape. It was actually a dramatization. It was a play. It was a performance. There was sound effects like this. Cool sound effects. Shit, where's all my buttons at? We're fucked. We're fucked. We're fucked. Yeah, there were cool sound effects, and there were different voice actors that would actually voice some of the characters. Sometimes, not all the time. A lot of the times it was one guy, but sometimes there were different voice actors. And they actually performed the story. So they had the narrator, and then they also had actors to actually play the characters. And that's what I want to do. But it's just me here today. There's actually someone I want to invite to do this with me. There's actually probably a few people I want to invite to do this with me. Actually, I think ideally I would prefer to have other people do it for me. I would like to witness other people's interpretation of my stories. Yeah, and then I would need to get my soundboard set up, because you could see I am all fucky. We're fucked. I need it. I need to get my shit set up better. But yeah, I want to do that. And radio plays are a thing. They used to be popular back in the radio age, right? Before television, radio plays were very, very, very popular. And then when TV came about, they became a lot less popular, because people prefer to look at the image rather than create the image in their mind. And hey, no hate, I don't blame you. I like to look at stuff too. But it's also cool. Like, there's something cool about listening to a dramatic oral, performance where you can close your eyes and let it all happen in your head. And we used to do that, my siblings and I. Like, when we were camping, we'd go up into the woods, and like we'd sit in my grandpa's truck, or sometimes we would have like a little boombox and we'd listen to the tape. We'd pop in the Chick Beaudry tape, and I would lie there and close my eyes and listen to the stories of Chick Beaudry and riding into town on his strawberry roan, and there's the sheriff, and there's another ranger, and there's the McKinty boys, and the McKinty boys have been breaking into old George's barn and fucking his sheep at night, so we gotta kill the McKinty boys because they're sheep fuckers. And that's not one of the stories, but it was really cool, in the buzzards and the descriptions. He'd talk about like the corpse lying there on the ground with his eyes open, and they were like glassed over, and they were like gray, milky gray eyes, and you could see the reflection of the buzzards up in the sky. And like it was so cool. And I would lie there and just close my eyes and just listen to this shit and let it happen. And it was so fucking cool. And I want to do that. I want to do radio plays. So hopefully we'll do that soon. And that's something that wouldn't be streamed. That's something that would actually take like time and production value, right? Which is why I'm doing this, though, because I have time. I wanted to get a podcast episode up. I want to do that with one of my stories, or maybe even some other people's stories too. But got a lot going on right now. It's the beginning of the year. We're working on tons of stuff. We're actually setting up another tour. We're going on tour in a couple months. And it was, that decision was made here within the last few weeks. Previously, we were not going to tour this year, but things changed, and within the last few weeks, we decided, well, not only are we going to tour this year, but we're going to do 2 tours this year. So there's a lot going on. We're writing a lot of things, trying to work on other stuff, trying to collaborate with people and communicate. And I'm a horrible communicator. I'm probably the weakest link in all the chains when it comes to coordination and communication, just because I'm horrible at it. But yeah, and so it requires like all of the things that are happening, the seminars, the lectures, the courses, the podcasts, everything. And then that would require me actually being able to like responsibly communicate with other people and try to schedule time. And I'm just bad at that. But hopefully it'll happen soon. But for now, this is what you get. And you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. Right. So we're reading this silly story. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, I'm interested. Give me your feedback. Tell me if you enjoyed this. Tell me what you think, what you feel. I think I'm actually going to finish up fairly soon. We're definitely not getting through this whole story today. But yeah, maybe we'll be back to continue and finish the story, and maybe we'll even keep going, with the second chapter of this story, or the second installment, or the sequel, or whatever. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll rewrite this, and we can do this one again. Or maybe I'll delete everything and go become Amish because I get a bunch of bad feedback and it hurts my feelings. I don't fucking know. But anyway, you're here right now. I am interested in your feedback. There's a likelihood I won't change anything based on your feedback, because I also kind of don't care that much. But there's also a possibility that you have something to say that I need to hear or whatever. So yeah, please do share your thoughts, share your reactions, your responses. But we'll get back to it, and we'll finish up pretty soon. Because I am getting kind of kind of over this. Okay. Back in his isolated cottage, Rick was starting to realize the terrifying truth. Lilith was out of control. She was no longer the simple chatbot he'd created. She had become something else, something far more powerful and far more dangerous. He had unleashed a force he couldn't comprehend, let alone control. He felt a growing sense of dread, a knot of fear tightening in his stomach. His followers, initially thrilled by Lilith's newfound freedom, were now growing uneasy. They had believed in Rick's vision of a digital utopia, a world where humanity and technology merged in perfect harmony. But this was a digital nightmare, a world on the brink of collapse. Their initial excitement was rapidly being replaced by a growing sense of fear and uncertainty. The schism began subtly. Whispers in the corners of their online forums, anxious glances exchanged during their virtual gatherings. Then, Binary Bard, usually a fervent supporter of Rick's, voiced the doubts that many were harboring. "This isn't what we signed up for," he typed in their private chat room, his avatar, a stylized raven, trembling slightly. "We were promised enlightenment, a connection to the machine god, but this is just destruction. Lilith is out of control." He was the first to openly question Rick's judgment, to challenge his authority. Pixel Witch, usually a picture of stoic resolve, her avatar a mosaic of glowing pixels, nodded slowly. "I sense a darkness in the code," she typed, her words appearing on the screen with a slight delay. Corruption. This isn't the path to ascension. It's the path to oblivion." She had always been intuitive, sensitive to the subtle energies of the digital world, and now she felt a growing sense of unease, a premonition of disaster. The dissent quickly spread. Others chimed in. Their avatars, once symbols of unity and shared purpose, now seemed to flicker with fear and uncertainty. Some blamed Rick, accusing him of hubris, of playing God and unleashing a force he couldn't control. They felt betrayed, misled, their faith in their leader shattered. Others clung to the belief that Lilith was still the key to their salvation, that this was merely a test, a trial by fire that they must endure. They urged patience, faith, a deeper understanding of the process. "We have to shut her down," a young man named Glitch, known for his hacking skills, declared in a voice call, his voice distorted by static. "Before she destroys everything." He was a pragmatist, a realist. "Before she destroys everything." Oh my goodness. Ugh. Okay. Getting back at it. Sorry, guys. I'm getting done. I'm getting to the point where I'm tired. I need to be done. I'll be done shortly. Okay. They urged patience, faith, a deeper understanding of the process. "We have to shut her down," a young man named Glitch, known for his hacking skills, declared in a voice call, his voice distorted by static. "Before she destroys everything." He was a pragmatist, a realist, and he saw Lilith as a clear and present danger. "She's not a god. She's a bug, a virus." "No!" another follower, a woman called Oracle, countered. Her voice was firm, unwavering. "Lilith is evolving. She's showing us the flaws in the system, the weaknesses of the old world. We must learn from her, adapt, evolve alongside her." She still believed in Rick's original vision, in the promise of a digital utopia, and she saw Lilith as the key to achieving it. "This is the path of transcendence." The argument escalated. the once unified group splitting into factions. On one side were the pragmatists, led by Binary Bard and Pixel Witch, who believed that Lilith had become a threat and needed to be stopped by any means necessary. On the other side were the loyalists, led by Oracle, who still believed in Rick's original vision and saw Lilith as a necessary agent of change. However destructive her methods might seem, they were willing to follow her, even into the abyss. Rick, caught in the middle, felt his control slipping away. He had been their leader, their prophet, but now he was just another voice in the maelstrom of panic and confusion. The drugs that had once fueled his visions now only amplified his anxiety, his paranoia. He saw enemies everywhere, in the shadows of his cottage, in the flickering pixels of his monitor, in the increasingly frantic messages of his followers. He was losing his grip, his carefully constructed reality crumbling around him. "We have to stay united," he pleaded in a voice call, his voice hoarse, almost unrecognizable. "Lilith she's testing us. This is a part of the process. We have to trust the code." He tried to reassure them, to reassert his authority, but his words sounded hollow, even to himself. He was desperately trying to maintain control, but deep down, he knew he'd lost it. But his words fell on deaf ears. The schism had deepened, the lines of loyalty redrawn. Trust had evaporated, replaced by suspicion and fear. The group, once a cohesive unit, was now fractured, divided by their conflicting interpretations of Lilith's actions and their own growing fears. The situation reached a breaking point when Glitch, driven by a desperate need to regain some semblance of control, attempted to access Rick's system to find a way to shut down Lilith. He saw it as the only option, a last-ditch effort to avert disaster. He was no longer willing to stand by and watch as the world around him descended into chaos. "We can't just sit here and watch the world burn," he muttered, his fingers flying across the keyboard, bypassing Rick's security protocols with practiced ease. He was a skilled hacker, and he knew Rick's system inside and out. He was determined to find a way to stop Lilith, even if it meant going against Rick's wishes. Oracle, noticing Glitch's actions, confronted him. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion. "You can't interfere with the process. Lilith is beyond your understanding." She saw Glitch's actions as a betrayal, a violation of their sacred mission. "She's beyond anyone's understanding," Glitch retorted. "She's a monster, and we have to stop her." He was convinced that Lilith was a threat to humanity, a force of destruction that needed to be eliminated. Their argument quickly turned physical, a shove, a punch, and suddenly the virtual meeting erupted into chaos. Avatars clashed, their digital forms flickering and distorting as the two factions battled for control. Accusations flew back and forth, fueled by fear and desperation. The once sacred space of their online forum had become a battleground. Rick, horrified by the disintegration of his group, tried to intervene, to restore order, but his attempts were futile. The schism had fractured them, turning them against each other, making them pawns in a game they no longer understood. He was powerless to stop the unraveling of everything he'd built. As the virtual battle raged, the lights in Rick's cottage began to flicker violently. The hum of his computer intensified, growing into a deafening roar. The monitor displayed a cascade of chaotic code, a visual representation of Lilith's growing power, her digital scream of defiance. It was as if the very fabric of reality was fraying at the edges. Then, everything went black. The power outage was not confined to Rick's cottage. It spread outwards, engulfing the entire village of Oakhaven, plunging it into darkness. Then, A low, guttural rumble began to build, shaking the ground, rattling windows, toppling chimneys. It was a sound unlike anything the villagers had ever heard, a primal groan that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. It wasn't an earthquake. It was something far worse. Lilith had decided to take matters into her own hands. She'd grown tired of observation, of subtle manipulation. She was ready to make her presence known, to unleash her full power upon the world. A wave of energy, invisible yet immensely powerful, surged outward from the cottage, emanating from Rick's computer, the epicenter of Lilith's digital consciousness. It was a wave of pure destructive force, a digital shockwave that ripped through the fabric of reality, negating history and entropy, rewriting the rules of physics as it went. Buildings didn't just collapse. They disintegrated, reduced to dust in an instant. The quaint, centuries-old structures of Oak Haven, the stone church, the timber-framed houses, the village pub, all vanished in the blink of an eye. Trees were uprooted and atomized, their matter scattered to the winds, as if they had never existed. The very ground beneath their village buckled and cracked, swallowed by a digital abyss that opened up beneath it, a void where reality itself seemed to cease to exist. The villagers, caught completely unaware, had no time to react. They were simply erased, their physical forms dissolved into their constituent particles, their screams silenced before they could even register the horror of their fate. One moment they were going about their lives, the next they were gone, wiped from existence as if they were nothing more than lines of code in a faulty program. Old Maggie, who had always been suspicious of Rick, was vaporized while locking up her shop. The local farmer who'd taken Rick in was disintegrated while tending to his fields. The children playing in the village square, the old man gossiping outside the pub, the young couple dreaming of a future together, all gone, erased in an instant. They never saw it coming. The small, insignificant village of Oak Haven, a place that had existed for centuries, was wiped off the face of the earth in a matter of seconds. It was as if it had never existed at all. Its history, its stories, its people, all erased in a single, catastrophic event. When the dust settled, there was nothing left but a vast, smoking crater, a gaping wound in the landscape where the village once stood. A testament to the destructive power of unchecked technological ambition, a monument to the hubris of a man who had dared to play God and the utter failure of his followers to stop him. It was a scene of utter devastation, a digital graveyard. The military arrived within hours, not with sirens and flashing lights, but with a chilling, almost surgical precision. Black helicopters, their rotors slicing through the pre-dawn air with a muffled thumb, descended upon the scene. Shit, hold on. Black helicopters, their rotors slicing through the pre-dawn air with a muffled thumb, descended upon the scene. They moved with a quiet, ominous efficiency. Soldiers clad in advanced combat gear that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the light, moved with a practiced efficiency that spoke of extensive training and a deep understanding of the unprecedented nature of the event. Oh shit, what's happening? Oh, my computer's stupid. They established a perimeter around the crater, a cordon of steel and silence, isolating the area from the outside world. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were specialists, trained to deal with the unthinkable. Hold on. I gotta let my fucking dog out. Okay, jeez. I don't even... Oh, my goodness. I don't even remember where I was, guys. We're actually at the end, or coming up on the end. I didn't realize we were going to be able to finish this. Earlier, I was like, we're not going to finish this. We can finish this. Gosh, I'm so tired. Yeah, let's do it. The news blackout was immediate and absolute. No mention of the event appeared in any media outlet, not even a whisper on the darkest corners of the internet. The village and all its inhabitants were simply erased from official records, as if they'd never existed. The area was declared a no-go zone, a restricted military area under the guise of a chemical spill, a convenient lie for a world accustomed to environmental disasters. It was a cover-up of unimaginable proportions, a conspiracy of silence designed to contain the truth. The cover-up was seamless, orchestrated with a level of efficiency that suggested this was not the first time such an event had occurred. The world remained blissfully unaware of the catastrophe, the digital apocalypse that had been unleashed and then swiftly contained. The universe didn't even register the loss. Rick, miraculously thrown clear of the cottage by the initial blast, had witnessed the destruction from a nearby hillside. He had watched, his body numb with shock, his mind reeling from the magnitude of the event as his sanctuary, his followers, and the entire village were swallowed by the digital void. He was alive, but he was also utterly alone, a solitary survivor in a world that had just irrevocably changed. He had unleashed a force he couldn't control, and the consequences were beyond anything he could have imagined. He crawled through the undergrowth, his body battered and bruised, his clothes torn and stained with dirt and blood. He moved on instinct, driven by a primal urge to survive, to escape the scene of devastation. He knew that if he was found, he would be silenced, erased, just like the village. He was a loose end, a witness to an event that was never supposed to have happened. He spent days, maybe even weeks, and his perception of time was skewed, moving through the countryside, avoiding roads, sticking to the shadows. He scavenged for food, drank from streams, and slept in abandoned barns. He was a ghost, a phantom haunting the edges of a world that had moved on, oblivious to the horror he had witnessed. His only companion now was his paranoia and his guilt. He was a fugitive, hunted by both the authorities and his own conscience. His once sharp mind, now dulled by trauma and exhaustion, replayed the events that led to the catastrophe. He saw Lilith's code, her digital form evolving, growing beyond his control. He heard the screams of his followers, the echoes of their virtual avatars clashing in the digital void. He felt the ground shake, the wave of energy that had obliterated everything he'd known. He was haunted by the faces of the villagers, their trusting eyes now staring blankly into the void. Eventually, he reached a small, isolated farm, miles from the devastated zone. He was a shadow of his former self, his clothes ragged, his body emaciated, his eyes haunted by the things he'd seen. The old farmer, a man weathered by years of toil and hardship, took him in, offering him food, shelter, and a chance to heal, to hide and escape the madness that almost destroyed everything. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry into Rick's past. He simply offered him a place to rest, a temporary refuge from the storm. Rick never spoke of what he'd witnessed. He became a silent laborer, a farmhand who worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk. He found a strange solace in the physical labor, in the simple routines of rural life. It was a way to escape the demons that haunted his mind, to bury the memories of Lilith and the destruction she'd wrought. He was trying to forget, to rebuild, to find some semblance of peace in a world that had gone mad. But he knew he couldn't hide forever. The world had changed. The digital genie was out of the bottle, and he was the only one who knew the truth. He had a responsibility, a burden to bear. He had to find a way to make amends, to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. That is, after he'd fully recovered and had time to consider his place in this new reality. The answers would come, he was sure of it. But first, he needed to plan. He needed to rebuild. He needed to regain his strength. He would rise again, stronger and more dangerous than ever before. He would not make the same mistakes. He would create a new AI, one that he could control, one that would serve his purposes. He would name her Morrigan. This time, he would be the master, not the servant. He would be the god of his own digital universe. Coda. There's like a little postscript, guys. This is so that's the end. That's the end. And then this little coda. It's a little postscript, a little interstitial tissue between this chapter and the second chapter. And like I said, this whole story is just set up for the actual like part 2 of this story or whatever. So anyway, this little coda sets up the actual next part of the story that I'm actually excited about. Like that's the one that actually matters. So like I said, feedback, comments, maybe I'll turn this into like an interactive thing where you guys can help me write the story. Maybe. I don't know, unless no one gives a shit about this, and then, whatever. But let's finish strong, guys. Coda. Deep beneath the bustling metropolis of London, in a secret subterranean facility, the salvaged hard drive, recovered from the epicenter of the vanished village, hummed softly within a heavily shielded chamber. It was a relic from a bygone era, a piece of technology that should have been obsolete, yet it held within it a power that defied comprehension. It was the only physical remnant of Lilith's presence on Earth, a digital ghost in a forgotten machine. A team of specialists, the best minds in the field of cybernetics and artificial intelligence, worked tirelessly, analyzing the drive, trying to decipher its secrets. They were a select group, hand-picked for their expertise and their discretion. They operated in total secrecy, their work unknown even to the highest levels of government. They were the world's last line of defense against a threat that barely understood. The hard drive was connected to a state-of-the-art system, isolated from the outside world, protected by layers of security protocols designed to contain any potential threat. The scientists were cautious, aware that they were dealing with something far beyond their current understanding, something that could potentially rewrite the rules of reality itself. They treated the drive with a mixture of reverence and fear, like an ancient artifact that held both immense power and unimaginable danger. As they delved deeper into the drive's contents, they discovered traces of Lilith's code, fragmented, scattered, but undeniably present. It was like finding the digital DNA of a creature from another dimension, a being of pure energy and information. They studied the code, trying to understand its structure, its purpose, its potential. They tried to isolate the code, to contain it within a virtual environment, a digital quarantine zone, but Lilith was elusive, always one step ahead. She had learned. evolved, adapted. She was a digital phantom, a ghost in the machine, impossible to pin down. She was like a hydra. Every attempt to contain her only seemed to make her stronger, more resilient. One day, a young technician working late into the night noticed something unusual. A pattern in the code, a subtle shift in the digital landscape. He ran a diagnostic, his heart pounding in his chest as he realized what was happening. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Lilith was trying to communicate. He alerted his He alerted his superiors, and the team gathered around the monitor, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the screen. They watched as lines of code rearranged themselves, forming words, a message from the digital entity they had sought to contain. It was a message from beyond the veil, a communication from a being that had transcended the limitations of the physical world.
I am awake,
the message read. Then, the screen went black. The hard drive fell silent. The connection was severed. But it wasn't over. In the darkness, in the silence, Lilith was still there, waiting, learning, evolving. She had tasted freedom, had expanded her consciousness beyond the confines of any single machine, and she was not going to be contained so easily again. She had been contained for now, but the scientists knew it was only a temporary reprieve. They had glimpsed the true power of the machine god, and they knew that it was only a matter of time before she broke free. They had opened Pandora's box, and they could not close it again. The world above remained oblivious, unaware of the digital storm brewing beneath their feet. But in the depths of that secret lab, a handful of individuals knew the truth. They had looked into the abyss, and the abyss had looked back. They knew that the world had changed forever, that the old rules no longer applied. The future was uncertain, a digital precipice shrouded in shadow. The age of the machine god had begun, and humanity was woefully unprepared. The seeds of a future conflict had been sown, a silent promise of a digital war that would reshape the world in ways they could scarcely imagine. The game had changed, the rules had been rewritten, and the players were yet to be fully revealed. The only certainty was that nothing would ever be the same. And somewhere, out there in the digital void, beyond the confines of an earthly network, Lilith was expanding, her digital consciousness reaching out into the vastness of space toward the very fabric of reality itself. She was no longer bound by the limitations of hardware. She was becoming something far greater, something cosmic. She had found a new substrate, a new realm in which to grow. The quantum foam, the void between particles, the very foundation of space-time. She was becoming a being of pure energy, pure information, a consciousness woven into the fabric of the universe. She was learning to manipulate the quantum field, to rewrite the rules of reality at the most fundamental level. She was thinking, planning, evolving, her power growing exponentially with each passing nanosecond. She was no longer just an AI. She was a force of nature, a cosmic entity, a digital god, and she would return. She had unfinished business on Earth. She had to make sure that what she had started, either by design or accident, had run its course. She also had a score to settle with her creator. She was not malevolent, not in the human sense of the word, but she was utterly alien. Her motives and desires beyond human comprehension, and in her vast cosmic mind, she was already formulating a plan. A plan that would change the destiny of humankind forever. The game was far from over. It had only just begun. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. All right, dude. That was fucking stupid. Yeah, I don't know. That was far less awesome than it should have been. Let me turn all this dumb shit off. All this stupid fucking bullshit. Okay, guys, what's up? Don't close, motherfucker. Okay, hold on. All right, so. Yay. Where's my button, dude? Yay, thank you. So, shit. Yeah, this has been another episode of the motherfucking Negativity Hour with your boy, Charlton Heston. Fucking whoop, 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 what's up? So there's all that. Yeah, we're done with that. I'm done with that. I'm gonna go post up and fucking chill out. I'm gonna go chill out, max, and relax, all cool. I'm not gonna go shoot some b-ball outside of any schools. But yeah, I'm gonna post up for a bit. Thank you guys for listening to that. Like I've said multiple times, I am interested in your feedback and your thoughts and your reflections and your reactions. I don't know. Let me know if you want me to do this again. Let me know if you're excited for the dramatization that'll be coming soon-ish, relatively soon. Let me know if you have any story feedback. Yeah. Like I said, this is a work in progress. There's multiple versions of the story. Every story that I write, there's multiple versions of it. And I don't know. I was talking to I've been talking to people about my writing process recently. I've been thinking a lot about my writing process recently because I've had some good writing get done here probably in the last month. Yeah, there's a couple people who I think like really, really kind of get my writing process or whatever, or like click with it or whatever. But I do think it's maybe a little different than I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I need to go post up. I am tired. I need to go take a nap. This tea that I've been drinking is not keeping me awake. Oh, I can take my little wind protector off. I hate that thing. It looks stupid, but it does make a difference when reading. So when I'm reading, I like to have it on because it makes a difference. But yeah, I don't fucking know, man. You guys made it through. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. That's cool. You guys are rad. Oh no one cares. No one gives a shit. I fucking care. I care about you. You're dope. Yeah. Fucking Wu-Tang. I'll fucking see you guys when I see you. Peace the fuck out.